What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube world? This is Chris, and this is my channel, Barn on 11970. As always, I thank you guys for checking out my video. For those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, or if you're just starting, you'll find out eventually that one of the things I like to do in my videos is to make people think. We've been pretty much all our lives steered in certain directions to the point where we're relying on other people to take care of us instead of thinking on our own. And a lot of videos that I make try and get people to think more for themselves instead of always relying on other people. Because you have to hope those people have integrity, you hope they're honest, and you hope they're not trying to take advantage. And we know throughout history there are plenty of people that will do that. So with that being said, I like to kind of put things in perspectives that make you kind of see things in different ways. And if you notice throughout our history, even just in our own lifetimes, whenever there's a problem in governments throughout the world, we always think that the next people in charge will solve the problems of the previous problems. I mean, look at prime example in the United States of America Corporation. Remember how Barack Obama was supposedly the savior? Remember how people were cheering and crying in the streets when he became president? Well, you always notice that like this happens in the Senate and everything, where we'll go primarily Democratic, and then all of a sudden Republican, it'll kind of switch, and you'll see how many people now in the 2016 election, which by the way, your votes don't count. I have other videos about that. I'm not even going to get into that. But you see how many people are hoping for a Republican president this time? Well, if you remember anything about Barack Obama, this savior, well, he was a Democrat trying to take over for what was at the time one of the worst presidents that we had in George Bush, which was a Republican. So they kind of make you forget and think, well, we're going to get you to hate this particular part of the government, and then you'll want the other, and not realizing ever that they're both part of the same problem. And if you think of it in this perspective, it might kind of make you think a little bit differently. Think of it like a mafia setup, where you have the boss who never really wants to be out in the open. They always hire people lower than him to do all the dirty work. Let's say he takes two of his most trusted people in his mafia racket, and he goes to them, and you know they've been with him for years. He trusts them. They've done nothing but good work for him. They know that they'll be loyal and they won't go against the family, and he trusts them. And he says to these two people, okay, you two criminals, I trust you. You are going to work for government. You, Tony, are going to be the Democrat. And you, let's say Mario, you're going to be Republican. Now, if you notice, they come from the same family, the same part of the mafia. And you get to pick which one of the criminal element. That's your freedom of choice. And wonder why none of the problems ever get fixed. And what they do is they base things on your emotion. That's why divide and conquer is the oldest trick in the book. It teaches how you can get masses to be overwhelmed by a minority of people. In other words, you can have 1 million people over here and maybe a couple of 100,000 over here. And if you get the millions over here fighting amongst themselves, well, the 100,000 here that are all united can easily overtake a bigger army. So the whole thing is to use your emotions against us. And you see it even with these trolls and these shills and people that get paid to kind of disrupt the harmony here. Because the one thing I notice is the only trolls that I have primarily come from this country. Because when I posted my video last night, I posted it sometime around 2 or 3 in the morning, where most of the people that live in the United States of America Corporation are pretty much asleep at this point, and there were no thumbs down. It wasn't until the next morning that all of a sudden I started getting some of the typical trolls thumbs down, which means the rest of the world is starting to get it. And they're starting to get information that we just don't want to believe in, or we don't want to listen to. It's kind of that la la la, I can't hear it, la la la, I can't see it. And they manipulate us with our emotions. So the very people that think they're helping and getting paid to disrupt people like me are ultimately hurting themselves in the long run and their families, and not even realizing it. And they use emotion. That's why they'll make all these false accusations. That's why they'll never talk about whatever topic we're talking about. They'll just use insults and attacks because they want you to get angry. They want you to focus on them and distract yourself from the objective. It's divide and conquer. That's why I just block them at this point, and they can cry all they want and say whatever they want. They're not going to affect what I am trying to do, and that's trying to help people the best I know how. Now, that doesn't mean I'm perfect at doing it, but like I said, if I can get you to think, and you think on your own instead of always relying on somebody else to always do the thinking for you, well, then you're going to be better off in the long run. So if you think of a Republican and a Democrat as nothing more than two separate entities connected to the same source, well, it doesn't matter which one you pick. That's why you'll see one year we'll have a president or a Senate or whatever that's purely closer to one side, and then all of a sudden it wants to go to the opposite. And it'll go back and forth throughout history. And I mean, there are no problems getting solved. Things are getting worse and worse, but you'll base it on the emotion saying, oh, like Obama, I hate him so much. I hate him so much. Look what he's doing. And you're going to want a Republican now to take over his place, thinking he's going to save us from that. Well, like I said, remember how Barack Obama was supposed to save us from what George Bush did. It's a vicious cycle that we continue to do, because what we're doing is, instead of saying we have the power to do things ourselves, we put our reliance in other people to do it for us. So in other words, what we're doing is we're taking away our own responsibility to get things done and giving it to other people and wondering why things don't get better. And what we do is we use them as scapegoats. And people will say things like, oh, look at Barack Obama, look what he's doing. Well, he's only doing it because he's being told to do it, and we're allowing him to do it. So, is it his fault? Partially. Is it none of our fault? No, we have to take the responsibility. These are supposed to be our representatives. And if they are not representing us, the people, and you can see by the protests and all the people like myself making videos like this, things are not getting better, but yet we comply. We allow it because why? It's easier. It's more convenient to let somebody else go and make our own food, or create our own clothes, or build our own houses, or create our own laws that dictate what we can and cannot do. That's freedom comes with a price. Freedom means you have to do things yourself. Freedom means you have to become more independent. You have to be more reliable on yourself. But most people don't want that. They like their enslavement. And that's why when you really start to research it, that's what it's all about. It's the comfortableness. They're giving you a couple of things to make you comfortable, but yet controlling the very aspects of your freedom by telling you you need things like a driver's license to travel. That's why we're the only species on the planet that pays to live, pays to be born, pays to die. And who are we paying it to? A bunch of people that for some reason said that even though if you're a religious person, we're supposedly placed here by a God that said we were freely able to roam the earth as long as we don't infringe on other people's rights, or if you believe that we came from alien species, whatever you want to believe in, that our DNA was altered and we became a higher form of consciousness through to DNA alteration, well, why is it all of a sudden the very same type of people all of a sudden claim dominance over us and we have to serve them, give away our rights? Well, if you know anything about the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, it's all about involuntary servitude that protects you under that amendment. But if you volunteer your servitude, in other words, if you get called to court or something and you volunteer to go, well, you're giving up your rights. In other words, you're not protected anymore, even though they don't tell you that, and even though you don't learn that, and even though you probably don't know that. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So we have to take responsibility. That means you have to take action. That means people like myself and others have to spread the word to let people understand that, like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, you had the power to go home all along. You need courage, you need intelligence, and you need heart to find out that it's just a man behind a curtain. It's not the scary Wizard of Oz. There is no wizard. He had no magical powers. They just use fear to be able to control us. We have to take back the power. And when I say that, I mean non-violently. We don't have to murder anyone. We don't have to burn down buildings, because we have to fix that. That costs money. That is counterproductive. We can take control by not complying to anything that's wrong. That's why when we look the other way, we allow it. It's the same as, like they say, not telling the truth is the same as lying. Not stopping a crime is just like participating in it. That's why if you've even collected comic books in your life and you know about all these Marvel superheroes, look at somebody like Spider-Man. When Spider-Man first got his powers, he didn't know how to utilize them. And originally in his origin story, he talks about the fact that he tried to become a wrestler to earn money so he can live. And ultimately, when he was going to get paid, they tried to cheat him. And a robber robbed the very place, the very manager that was basically screwing Peter Parker out of his money. And Peter Parker had the opportunity to stop that criminal, because he was running right past him, escaping after he robbed that manager who basically screwed Peter Parker out of his money. And he was so mad, he decided to let the criminal go. Well, the criminal ultimately ended up murdering his Uncle Ben, who he was living with. And that's when he learned, with great power comes great responsibility. So in other words, if you look the other way and say, oh, I don't want any part of it, there are consequences for that. And Peter Parker had to learn through that, letting that criminal go, the consequences of his inaction. It's not always about what you do. Sometimes it's what you don't do. And that's why I like the video I made last night, which, by the way, has under 200 views, which to me is kind of sad that the majority of people will listen to a Kim Kardashian video, but not the truth about what's going on over in Gaza. If we decide to look the other way and say, you know what, it's not our problem, it's not happening to us, I don't want to rock the boat. And what you're saying is, I'm allowing that to happen, and I'm giving my taxes to my representatives to go over and do that work for us. In other words, you think you have unclean hands, or you have clean hands. Just like the whole Cassius Pilate, or whatever his name in the whole Jesus story, the Russian, the Roman person that put Jesus to, he didn't kill him, but he allowed the people to kill him, and he said he washed his hands on it. Well, it was his decision or his inaction to stop it from happening that created that pattern, and what ultimately killed Jesus in the story. So what this is all telling us is we have to stop relying on other people, other saviors, always looking for those superheroes, always looking for that politician that's going to come along and save the day. That's why people like Ron Paul, he may get everybody all rah, 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 but what has he done to change the world? He can't. You cannot do it for everyone else. You have to do it yourself. You are Dorothy. You have the power to go home. You just have to realize your potential. And the whole thing is that's why the media will always use negativity. They're always trying to scare you. They're always trying to make you feel down and depressed, because then you'll be unmotivated to do anything about it. If you want to lose weight, you could take a pill, which of course will get you side effects, which will only work as long as you continue it. And it won't really work, and it makes other people money. Or you can get up and exercise and eat better. Well, which do you think is going to require more work, more effort? But which one do you think is not going to give you side effects, and which one do you think is going to last? And it will only continue as long as you want to do it. So it's the choice. Think of your body like your property and your lawn. You want your front lawn to look nice? Well, you have to mow it. You have to water it. You have to pull out the weeds. You have to take care of it. And you have to constantly do it forever. You can mow your lawn and do everything for 50 years straight, every summer for 50 years. And then all of a sudden, the 51st year, you turn around and say, well, I've been doing this for 50 years. I've done enough. It should be great, and I'll just stop. Well, what do you think is going to happen after the 51st year? At the next summer, it's going to be wild again. So it has to be a continuation. And the average person has been taught to be lazy. So, in other words, don't do anything. Don't worry. We'll take care of you. And that would be great if we had representatives that are looking out for our best interest. But when you're looking at them giving money to places like Israel so they can continue to bomb women and children over in Gaza, and letting places like Detroit go bankrupt, and our own people's jobs are being sent overseas, we're not being represented. And that's all around the world. So we can all complain, we can all have picket signs and stand out there and say, hi, I don't think it's fair, or we could stop participating in their system. We can stop giving money. I don't have a bank account anymore. The only thing I have now is a federal credit union, and I don't put my money in a bank. I don't have credit cards. I don't participate in that. As much as I can, as much as some people want to make fun of the fact that I make orgone pyramids and organic products, I'm making my own. I've become reliant on myself. I am my own home business. Instead of, when people purchase things from me, they're not purchasing from a corporation that is profiting off of people's ignorance. You're helping a local business. And they don't want you to be that way. They want you to be part of the system. They want you to make money for them. So you sit at your office complaining all day of how unfair it is to work there and how your boss treats you like garbage, but you choose to be there. It's all a choice. People have to take responsibility back. They want lazy people. They want the people entertained with video games and make that their life and their priority. And believe me, I know. I was one of those people a couple of years ago, as far back as, not even as far back as 2010. That's not a long time ago. And look at how much I've learned in that time span, where originally pretty much I didn't know any of this stuff before about 2012. I just started talking about gold and silver in 2011 till mid-2012, and then I started learning. And in the beginning, I was doing a lot of the fear porn, because you don't learn about stuff until you continue to research and you gain wisdom. So I went from all the paranoid death, we're all going to be destroyed, to learning about how you have your own power. It takes time, but you can do it. And if we keep sitting here waiting for another politician to come along and save us, do not complain when it doesn't happen. And it's not going to happen. If you don't want to get up and fix it, if you don't want to take the effort to help somebody because it's difficult, then the only person you're hurting in the long run is yourself. And I am a prime example of that. I get attacked all the time. I get abused all the time. I'll have people thumb down this video just because they don't like me. But you think that's going to stop me? Absolutely not. That's what these morons never will understand, is it will not stop me. And I will not give up, because if I get one person and it helps one other person and it continues, well, you know what? It's called paying it forward. It is my duty to not give up, and neither should you. Just because it's hard, just because it's frustrating, just because it's not rewarding, doesn't mean you shouldn't stop what's right because it's convenient to just lay back and let somebody else take care of you. Well, if that's the case, if you choose to not make any effort because you're afraid or you don't want to rock the boat or things are going pretty decent for you, then you give up your right to complain because you don't want to do what it takes. So you don't have to change the world by yourself. But if you don't help educate people, they will never learn. And then in the whole scheme of things, it will never come back and help you. And we're all victims by choice. I choose to not be that way anymore. You can understand that. You may like it. You may hate it. You may not understand it. That is your choice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to make suggestions so you can think for yourself. If you want to rely on other people, then you know what? We're relying on the wrong people. Because please tell me, any of these politicians throughout the world, how many of them are doing a great job where you would highly recommend everything that they do because it's full of integrity and honor? Most people will laugh at that. There's a reason for that. Take responsibility. Stop being lazy. I was one of those people. Now I won't give up, and I will not stop until this is fixed or I don't have the capacity to do this anymore. I hope I have more people join in. So if you appreciate this stuff, make your own videos. Stop being afraid. Stand up. Share my videos if you have to. Share other people's videos. Get the message out and awaken people, and stop waiting for Superman to come save you, Ron Paul to save you, or the next president to save you. It's not going to happen. You have to save you. It's time for reality. Thanks for watching. Peace.